Hello, everyone. Look who it is! Back on camera for the first time in a while. The cat of the hour, the cat with the power, fresh from his morning bath, which he fortunately doesn't have to take but every 6 weeks, unlike us humans where we must take one at least every other day. But it's RJ! Say hi, RJ. Hi, RJ! Alright. Yeah, RJ, he has a bit of dandruff, right? Started fairly recently. He's been getting a bit of dandruff, so I had to get some dandruff shampoo, and I have to shampoo him about every 6 weeks or so. It's actually a little overdue, which is why I did it today. I was supposed to do it, I think, at the end of last month, but life been crazy, yo. So, yeah, so I did it today. He was dry like before noon, and of course acting like a little diva all day long. Also, I'm dealing with COVID. Uh, Tested positive for COVID last Thursday. I'm feeling fine. It feels like a very mild cold for me, and I'm just saying that's my experience. I'm not saying that's everyone else's. I know that it hits people differently. So if I sound a little off, that's probably why. I will say that though I'm glad the symptoms are mild in my case. The cold I had earlier this month actually hit me harder than the COVID symptoms are. I'm just sneezing a bit, coughing a bit, but outside of that, my sense of taste is fine. My energy is fine. Lungs are fine. Sense of smell is fine. Right. So I'm doing okay. Hopefully they'll take me off of COVID isolation by the end of the week. Right. It's funny how much you want to go outside when people tell you you can't. Right. But anyway, enough about me. Um, I wanted to just briefly address this tweet that I saw, and I retweeted it, and I made a little snarky comment, as I tend to do. But I wanted to address this in a bit of a deeper manner. So this from some dude named Tom, right? It says Kuso Twitter boy, he him. I don't know what that means. I think Kuso is Japanese for shit or something. I don't know. I don't remember. Right? Kuro, I know, is black. I remember correctly. Kuro, right? Kuso, I think, is a profanity. But anyway, um, he says here, look, I get that you gotta appeal to your audience, but the way Baiken's chest has changed with each Guilty Gear installment is effing comical to the point where it's genuinely distracting. So let's look at the designs he posts here, right? So I'm assuming this is her original design. I'm somewhat familiar with Guilty Gear, right? But it's not something I've played. It's, at least for me, it's hard to find. Like, it wasn't big or all that popular or available like in like the fighting game craze of the '90s, right? I had Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Tekken, Soul Calibur, all those, and never heard of Guilty Gear, right? For the longest time. But anyway, so this looks more like a design from like one of the earlier games, right? Where her chest is smaller, her face is much different, right? She looks like a female Kenshin Himura type here, except showing the skin, right? And then we see that she gets a glow up of sorts, right? The hair changes, it becomes pink. She gets a much more feminine face, right? And then we move on to these other images, right? Her face is still feminine looking, although it's obviously in a very angry expression here. The thick wild hair, which is now just completely pink, it's not red anymore, right? Her chest, and then of course, right, this one, which is the most recent game, Strive, right? You see, again, now her breasts look like two giant bowling balls, right? But here's what I find interesting and surprising about his tweet. First of all, he says that it's comical to the point where it's distracting. Well, sir, if you are distracted by her design, by the skin shown in her design, then you probably need to pay attention to the action on screen, because Guilty Gear is a fighting game. Fighting games are, a game of inches, a game of chess, right? It's a game of skill, it's a game of luck, it's a mental game, and you need to pay attention to the literal virtual battle that you are a part of. If you allow yourself to get distracted by a character's design to the point where, say, you lose, well, then that's your problem. That would be like if I was playing as Johnny, right? Who's got this open jacket design, right? Abs for days, right? Showing off as much skin as Baiken does, right? You see his nearly full chest, right? You see his nipples are covered by the lapels of his jacket, right? Just like that. What the? Yeah. Just like her nipples are hidden by the edges of her kimono. Would that be a kimono? Right. So if you're in a Archie, what are you doing? What are you doing? Okay, you're just gonna settle down. Okay, good. Anyway, right. So Baiken, right, realistically speaking, is showing pretty much the same amount of skin as Johnny is here, right? Their nipples are hidden by the very edges of their clothing, right? His jacket and her top, right? Yet somehow, right, no one's gonna complain about Johnny and his washboard abs, right? No one's going to complain about that. But Baiken, right, suddenly is distracting. Well, here's the thing, sir, as I was saying. If I allow myself, if I'm playing this game and I'm playing as Johnny or somebody or my opponent's playing as Johnny, and I allow, say, my more base instincts and base feelings and views of his design, because yeah, I like Johnny's look. He's attractive to me. I'm not gonna lie. It definitely works for me. I have a thing for blondes. I can't help it. I grew up crushing on Shawn Michaels. Sue me. But anyway, um, if I allowed myself as a fighting game player to get distracted because ooh, Johnny's so hot. Ooh, Johnny abs all day long, right? I'd lose the match. And that would not be anybody's fault but my own. To allow a character design, which is based on the Man in Black, right? Johnny Cash and all that, because a lot of stylistic influence is take for Guilty Gear is taken from rock and roll, in particular classic rock, right? But if I allow myself to be distracted by his look, well then that's on me. That's not the fault of the design. It's not the fault of the fictional white blonde dude, dressed in this manner. It's not the fault of the artist who designed him. If I allow myself to get distracted, there's only one person to blame for that. That's me. And if anybody allows themselves to be distracted by Baikens Design, which I think is a totally cool design, the whole, unkempt, wandering samurai thing and all that, right? It reminds me a bit. I think Guilty Gear came before certain entries of Soul Calibur, but I'm more familiar with Soul Calibur, so like whenever I see Baiken's look, I think of Setsuka, who has a very similar um, design, especially in like Soul Calibur 4, I would say, right? But still, I like the whole, wild, Ronin lady samurai thing. It's a cool look in my opinion. And it speaks in Auron Dark Lord says here, I would have more sympathy for the argument if they didn't cheer every time a character got shrunk or race swapped. They can't now go, but the original design. I agree. Right, and as I said here, am I supposed to be upset? The same thing happened to Ivy and Setsuka. in Soul Calibur and Power Girl at DC Comics, right? And like I said, Baiken is a samurai, right? She's a badass samurai. That's what I see. I don't look at her and see just boobies, right? And it kind of annoys me that this guy has reduced her to her breast, right? And he completely overlooks everything else about her design, whether it's the wild hair, whether it's the missing flippin' arm, right? Or the fact that, she's wearing her sword on the same hip as her remaining arm, which means that she's drawing the sword from the same side, which is incredibly difficult to do. You need to be incredibly skilled to be drawing a sword in that manner, especially given that, again, this is a fighting game, right? So it actually speaks, Baikens Design, I would say, speaks to her personality and to her swordsmanship, right? And to the fact that, if I remember correctly in Guilty Gear, she's a Japanese woman, right? And the Japanese are like nearly extinct in that game's world. But the whole thing is that she's she she's proud to be Japanese, but she doesn't necessarily live up to the sort of like cultural norms or standards that would be expected of a woman like her in that culture, right? Everything about her flies in the face of what a proper Japanese woman is supposed to be. Because Baiken does not define herself that way. She sees herself and others see her as a warrior. So this guy is looking at a warrior, and because she's dressed indecently, all he's reducing her to are her breasts. It's like looking at Chun Li and just reducing her to her breast or her legs, right? Because those tend to be her prominent physical features, and overlooking everything else about her as a character, right? And what's funny is that I asked my audience a few weeks ago, I think around the time I was on vacation, so late last month, so about a month ago, how they felt about Chun Li after they saw the infamous shower scene where she's shown in the nude, right? Full frontal nudity and all that. And my audience is majority male, right? It's just under five. It's just under 600 people. It's majority male, and every response I got from, again, mainly men, said that their opinion of her did not change. They didn't view her as lesser. In fact, their opinion of her improved because right after the shower scene is the big fight between her and Vega, right? I am blessed with an audience that can look at a female character and acknowledge that, yeah, she's hot, but also, she has value beyond that. And she's not cool or appealing or anything like that just because, ooh, attractive, ooh, big boobs. That there's more to the character and there's more to a woman than just her most outstanding physical feature, right? Another thing is that we've seen for a while, and we've seen just recently, right? This toning down of femininity, right? Or any sort of supposed indecency from a woman, right? The most recent one is the green M&M losing her boots, losing the go-go boots, right? And now she gets these very plain looking shoes, these white tennis shoes that don't stand out in any way, don't make her design memorable in my personal opinion, right? And again, it's just removing of feminine energy and really feminine power. Because when I look at Baiken or even the green M&M, it was like these dangerous take charge type of women, and now they're more or less being told to cover up, right? Which is, whether this guy realizes it or not, pretty much what he's advocating for here, even if he's not directly saying it, because he's saying that the increasing size of Baiken's chest is comical and that it's distracting, right? And then, of course, with the green M&M, she actually got this, more or less rejected redesign that no one asked for, right? But it's been going on for a while. You've seen it in comics, seen it in video games, seen it with Lola Bunny, with the Space Jam movie a while back, right? This continuing toning down of the female form because now it's too indecent for it to be seen. I guess female sex appeal is just too powerful for certain individuals. And here's the thing: maybe I could give this guy a little bit of leeway or kind of see where he's coming from, if Guilty Gear, if their female designs were only characters who look like Baiken, right? But it's not, right? For example, let's use Johnny for the men, right? You have a character like Johnny who shows skin, right? Shows up as upper body. Then you have characters like what's his name? What do we have here? A perfectly modest costume. Wait, leggings, jacket, hat, gloves, boots. It's almost like it's very, very modest. How surprising that this should be a modest design. It's almost as if character designers are trying to use the art and use the design to show off a character as well. Character, right? Show off who they are as a person, right? How they might play, right? For example, a big burly character, right? It's usually going to be big and muscular or very fat, to show they're big, they have all this size, right? They're probably going to be pretty slow, right? Your Zangief types, right? Whereas your sort of like ninja types or your speed types are probably going to be very slim, svelte, have a very sleek look to them to visually represent the idea of being ninja like, fast on their feet, right? And stuff of that nature, right? There's a lot of good videos that I've seen over the years. I'm going to link a few that really go into character design, right? And the thought process behind character design for certain games and just certain like general principles behind it. And in closing, I want to say that Melanie Mack, I think, had some great tweets earlier this morning about how the woke are echoing a lot of the same talking points, right? That the religious right of the 80s, right, uh, had, right? In particular to the way women are depicted or displayed in media. The difference is that, at least from my understanding of it, and I will admit I was a baby when most of that was happening, so I can't speak necessarily to living through it or being old enough to understand what was going on at the time, but certainly being a child of the 90s, it seemed to me that for all of the complaints about decency, right, on TV, the response from those who made the shows, right, or from the actors and the actresses or from the artists, was to just ratchet up, right, to basically thumb their nose in the face of the moral guardians. So keep in mind, moral guardians have always been around, right? It's nothing new. It may seem new to some younger people because this is the first time they're seeing it, but you do enough research or you live long enough and you realize none of this is new, right? Moral guardians existed in the 40s and 50s and the 60s. Things like Elvis's swiveling hips, right? They wouldn't record him be- below the waist, right? Or books like Seduction of the Innocent, which caused a panic, and then you had the Comics Code Authority and all this other stuff, right? And the Comics Code Authority back in the day, when it was like really enforced, was like really restrictive in the things that a comic book could display. right? And it was either that or basically allow government oversight over the industry, and nobody wanted that. So they settled for the Comics Code Authority, and they were real restrictive in what heroes could do and the type of stories that could be told. Like you could never show a cop in a bad light. You could never show the police in any sort of negative light. You couldn't feature smoking. You couldn't feature the occult. There were some really strict rules back when they were in power and those rules were being enforced. But here's the thing. Usually what would happen over time is that the youth culture, which of course all this media, video games, comics, anything else, is constantly reaching to, the youth culture, right, would re would rebel against these overly restrictive norms, right? And so the entertainment that's always trying to court them would do so to get their attention. And then, of course, what is controversial, right, in your parents' generation becomes normalized in your generation. And then, of course, what's controversial when you're young becomes normalized in your child's generation or in your grandkids' generation, right? This is generally how time works, right? But the thing is that we're seeing not just middle aged people like myself, but we're seeing a lot of youth culture actually embrace this modesty kick, right? Which perhaps is what sort of confuses someone like me who grew up with a lot of immodest entertainment, whether it was sports, video games, uh, music videos, right? Everything. I grew up in like the last true sort of like sex, blood, guts, rock and roll type of entertainment, right? But that was sort of in, that was cool, right? Right, that was edgy. It was cool to be edgy. Now you see all these franchises that have either survived into the modern day, Mortal Kombat, for example, or that have been resurrected for the modern day, right? A lot of 80s cartoons, for example. And now what what they're famous for is now considered um, obscene, right? But what was once considered beautiful and the feminine ideal is now considered objectifying and sexist. And I don't know about you, but I can't think of anything more objectifying and sexist than a tweet like this, which is basically saying, I have no self control. I can't keep my eyes on the fight. Please cover up her boobies. They're distracting me. My man, close your eyes. If it bothers you that much, close your eyes. Either close your eyes and learn how to play video games blindfolded, or learn how to enjoy the display because Baikens Design is hella cool, right? And learn how to look at her design and find it cool and find it appealing and still participate in the activity of playing a fighting game, right? Learn how to multitask, right? People like to say learn to code, but I'm saying learn to multitask and stop re- reducing these characters who have backstories and everything, who have been fleshed out just to their exposed fleshy parts, because you can't see beyond that. That's not the fault of the fictional human. That's not the fault of the real humans behind this design. That is solely your fault, sir. That is solely your fault. So you may want to check yourself and ask yourself why you are so distracted by a female Kenshin Himura. Right? And another thing that I want to point out before I end this video, I know I've sort of been rambling and going here, there, and everywhere, is that this kind of reminds me of another controversy that's been that crept up recently. It was regarding, I think it's called Demon Slayer or something. I don't follow anime as much as I used to. But there was this image, right, of this like dark-haired girl. I think the idea was that she was in her adult form. She's like a child normally, and she's a demon, and then she became like a demon form of her adult form. Kind of reminded me of the whole thing with like Nell in Bleach, where she had like a child form, and then she had an adult form. But anyway, the adult form or the older teen form for this character, it's like got like long, crazy long black hair and a horn popping out and her veins popping out. And she's got this really angry expression on her face, and her fists are her arms are tense, and her fists are balled. This woman looks like she's about to take on a whole army and win. And yet, all the discourse, whether for or against the design, was centered around her chest and the idea of, oh my god, she's 12 years old, why does she have boobs? First of all, puberty can and will hit some young girls very early and very hard. I'd know. I was one of them. By the time I was 14, I passed easily for 2021. People thought I was in college. Number one. Number two, what surprised me about this thing was that when I looked at the image, I'm going to see if I can pull it up here. Come on. Go here. Here. Good. What's her name? Nezuko? It's paused. Sorry. I don't know. It's just suddenly paused. But anyway, as I was saying, um, I don't look at this image of Nezuko or Nezuko and see a sex object, right? I don't look at her and see, oh my god, it's just sex. No, I look at her, I'm like, I don't need to know why her boobs are on display. All I know is that I'm getting the hell out of her way. I'm getting out of the city if if I can manage it. If I see someone with that expression on their face, and it just annoys me how cleavage, just the bearing of skin, regardless of reason why, regardless of what the rest of the art piece or whatever depicts, that it's immediately just been reduced to, oh, there's sizable breast on display, this must be pornographic or close to pornographic in nature. And it's like, um if you seriously think this or this is pornographic because, oh my god, big boobs, then you need to lay off the adult entertainment. You're watching way, way, way too much if this is what your brain defaults to just because you see some skin. Learn to have some respect for yourself and for the fictional humans who you are basically being sexist toward by reducing them to boobies. But anyway, that's the long, rambly video. Please let me know what you think, and I will see you on the next one. Have a good day and night wherever you are.